Hey guys, how is everybody doing? I am Mike from N3K, and we've got something quite cool today. We're going to be talking about a topic that I get a lot of question asked about. It is how to get inside the game industry, how to turn making games into an actual career path, and make games for a living, have fun doing it, and just not have a boring time at work every day. Um, yeah, so let's get right into it. The first thing I'd like to address is my background and why I think my input might be valuable to you, and also that I'm just not some random dude just giving you awful advice, right? So let's get started with that. So I've been in the game industry for a while. I guess I could say I'm a senior, but I'm not a senior in any specific field, and let me get into that in a second. Um, I'm just gonna tell you my whole background thing from left to right. I've started as a game player, played games. Now, of course, that is not a job. That is not. You can't really put that on your resume, right? But I've started playing. That's the first thing. I've always been playing games. I really enjoy playing game a lot. That I wanted to make some or modify some. So I've started making maps. As stupid as it might seem, like making maps in map editor in other games. And that might not sound like you're a developer when you're doing that, but you're actually creating a level. You're actually designing levels. So to some extent, this can be something you could put on your resume. I remember my first resume, I put my Far Cry map on there, and I got some good feedbacks out of it. So I've always been playing game, and then I started making content for those games, and I pushed that a little bit further afterward. This is my real first job, you could say, in that industry. I became a YouTube gamer, which is basically you make content about games. You see those guys everywhere now. Like nowadays, it's like super popular. I guess PewDiePie could have been in that list, but he's not really making game content too much anymore. But you just make gaming stuff on YouTube. That's what I was for a good year of my life, I guess, when I started actually being in the industry and actually earning a little bit of money out of it. And then afterward, I went to game design school for 1 year. This is actually, the course was 1 year long and it had 3 terms. I've learned about every single field, so from modeling to animation to rigging to programming. I've learned about all of those, but on a very shallow level. Nothing was in depth, and that was fine because that's a 1 year course and you just cover all those fields. Now, using the YouTube thing that I've made with 15,000 subscribers on there, and also the degree I had from my game design school, I went and I applied to Ubisoft, where I got a game tester job. Now, I know that might not sound like the best thing in the world, whoa, you're becoming like a game tester, but it's actually really, really fun job if you just want to be in the industry and just like put your feet in the door, and that's something I've did. So I was testing Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which was just amazing game, had amazing result, and just was pretty good, right? And then afterward, I've got promoted at that place. I've got promoted from game tester to game dev tester, which is the same thing, but then you're actually reading the code there. And then finally, I got promoted once more to a tool support specialist, which is like a mix of tool programmer and also a source control guy, a data manager. So that was my experience at Ubisoft. I stayed there for about 1 year total, if we just put those 3 jobs together. And at that point, I was getting pretty good at video games because I just kept playing video games all the time. Something I love doing is like playing video games online against people. And I was getting pretty good at League of Legends at that time. So I've had an offer to actually move to a gaming house in California, which I took. And I just left Ubisoft there. I said, okay, so making games is fun, but I could have a chance and actually play them for a living. So I went there, didn't work out too well, and I had to come back here. Well, it was an amazing experience, and I got to actually play a game for 3 months without doing really anything. And at that point, I went back to Canada. I did a little bit of web development and also a little bit of software engineering, which is something I don't personally like. I love programming, but I did not love working on those things. I want to work on games. And it's an actual huge difference if you work for say a company that does analyst programming, then you might not like it, but if you do programming for a game, you might actually enjoy it quite a lot, which is what I am. So I love making gameplay stuff. I don't like making softwares. And at that point, I was getting pretty bored with all the programming stuff I was doing with the just web and also software engineering. So what I've did is I've just packaged all of those experience I've had, and I contacted one of my teacher, and he offered me a job at school, which is what I've did for the past 1.5 years. I've started teaching the same course I took about 3 years before that. It is also around that same time, actually, when I was starting to teach, that I've also started my YouTube channel. So this channel you're on right now, I've started it at the same time as I was teaching. And teaching is really a blast because then you get to see the student and you start teaching like how they were at the beginning and how they are now. Now they're landing job in game industry and they're just, they're starting their actual career now. So that was pretty cool. But I've left that job earlier this month to come here in the Philippines to actually work on the Freedom MCN game development team. So I'm currently the lead of that team and we are making games. Okay, so I know that's a lot to grasp, and if we just want to resume it, is I've played game, I've did YouTube, I did actual game industry stuff like the real being in a company, and did YouTube again, back in indie, teached a bit around that. Just it's a whole mash of different experiences, and I'm saying that I'm not a senior in any of those fields because I'm not a senior teacher, I'm not a senior programmer, I'm not a senior YouTube guy. I did a little bit of everything, but as a whole, I've always been playing around with games and creating content for those games. So I believe I have some experience, especially with the teaching part. I believe I have enough experience to give you maybe some tips that will help you get inside of the industry, because all you really need is that breakthrough. For me, I would say that game testing was my breakthrough, because from there, I was in contact with a lot of people, but not only that, I had now that lever I could use on my resume. And what do I mean by lever? Lever is simply just being able to package all your past experience and use that to get a better job. And then once you're here, you just use that again to get a better job, and you just keep going on like that. From a HR perspective, it's not the best thing because you know that the person is going to keep trying to go up and also like maybe quit the job after 3 months. So the whole time where they recruit you and they give you training, when they give you training, and then you just consume that training and you might use that to actually lever to another job. So that's not the best way to see it if you're like trying to recruit people, but as a personal growth experience, it's great to jump from job to job. Not that I would recommend doing that because that's kind of selfish, just using those trainings to go up and up, but that's one way you could do it. All right, so let's step back to an actual situation where you guys can relate more. I believe that people are watching this video, you can relate more to it. So imagine that you're just out of school. You are, or not even out of school, you're in the middle of your game design degree or any other degree for that matter. Basically, you can't use any lever to get your job. You can't go up to a game company and say, oh, I've worked at McDonald's, so please hire me. That's not going to work out too much. I mean, it could if they really need people at that point, but it's not the best sales point. Now, as a past teacher, I'm going to say the degree part is good. Like having a degree is going to at least tell the person who's recruiting right now, you know about keywords in the industry, you know about how we work there a bit, few concepts that's going on, right? So you know a bit of what we're doing right now. Your training costs and your training duration is going to be reduced, so we have more chances of hiring you. That's what a degree does, basically. It just tells you, okay, so you have an advantage right now over the person who doesn't have a degree. But still, I am not going to say that you need a degree because that's totally fake. You do not need a degree to get inside of the game industry. There is no need for that. If you have nothing on your resume that just says game industry on there, you need to have some experiences. You need to have some projects to show. You need to have some concept to show. As bad as it might seem, like I've mentioned, for my first resume, I actually had Far Cry maps on that. I made some Far Cry maps, designed the whole thing, and I took pictures, in-game picture, and I've made a little document next to it. So it's like, this is the first part of the level, it's that difficulty, then you move on to the second part, it's that difficulty, and I had like values. It didn't mean anything really, like it didn't follow any concept, it didn't follow any kind of flow chart, but people could tell that I knew what it meant to me. So they were like, okay, so this guy know what this is, he's able to come up with some kind of concept like that, and there has to be a plan behind this map, and there was a plan. So the difficulty would go up every time you like switch region in the map. And like I said, it didn't mean anything to them, but to me it did, and they saw it. That's what they saw. They saw that I was able to actually just create some documentation around what I've made. Now, should you be making maps of other games and put that on your resume? Maybe not. Maybe that's not the best approach, but maybe if you did like some StarCraft 2 custom maps, if you did Warcraft 3 custom maps, if you did RPG Maker games, those are definitely worth showing. This is worth more than actually putting some real work experience in there, such as, oh, I've worked at McDonald's for 1 year. Now, McDonald's is good because then you get to actually follow rules and they know that you can follow rules, but showing that interest and like being able to document stuff you've done on games, then That's definitely better. So it goes without saying that if you do not have a degree in game design, or if you do not have a degree in any game industry fields, then you need to have actually something to show, some kind of project to show. Did you make any indie game? Did you make any mods for, say, Skyrim? Or did you make any... Why are you interested in the game industry, basically? And show us your passion. Show us what you actually like in that. And now we're going to delve a little bit in the specific field inside of the game industry. Like, there's like 3 major ones that you know about: programming, artists, or design. So those are 3 specific things, and you need to actually choose one. As awful it might seem, you need to actually choose one. Now, you might be tempted to say, I'm able to do them all because I'm a jack of all trades. And it's really not a good thing to say. I'm going to be super honest with you. You really gain nothing out saying you're a jack of all trades, because those 3 specific fields, they keep evolving all the time. They just keep changing all the time. You need to keep up with the design trend. You need to keep up with the new way you program stuff. You need to keep up with the new trend in art as well. So saying that you're able to keep up with those 3 fields all the time is, first, it's impossible, and second, it's not going to gain you any point. It's going to remove you some points. The only place where you can actually say you're a jack of all trade is when you would apply for, say, indie company. But then indie company, they don't really have the resources to hire people, and when they do, they're not indie anymore, I guess. So, like I said, you're not gaining anything out of saying you're a jack of all trade. Unless you're building your own game, you're building your own stuff, and you're on your own, and you're just claiming that you are a jack of all trade, then sure, doesn't matter at this point. But then again, you're not reaching out to anybody trying to get hired. You're just on your own. So on your resume, definitely avoid saying you're jack of all trade. When you're building your resume, you can say I'm proficient in code. I don't really do art. I don't really do design. I did a little bit of it, just to get a glance of it, but I don't want to do it. I'm not applying for this, basically. And just showing that you have, like, you already know some keywords for those fields is good, but saying that you want to pursue a career in all of them, definitely bad. Super bad. Don't do that. Okay, so now let's talk about specific field and also what kind of skill set you want. So if you're applying for a programming job, now this is one of the hardest one to get. Well, it's not the hardest one to get. It's actually one that's in between. And I'm saying it's in between because you can show a lot of good stuff if you've done Unity in the past, if you've done Cocos 2D, Game Maker. You can actually show code and stuff that works. Then you're going to have like a lot of good chances to get in there. But again, they might actually pick somebody with a bigger degree, so say a bachelor in computer science before you. So that's where a bachelor has really heavy impact. So I would say that programming is the places where the degree is worth a lot more. Because for art and design, the degree is really worth. It's not worth too much. But programming, the degree is going to get you actually quite far. If you do not have a degree, you want to be able to show that you've put a game, you created a game, and you put it to an end. It's really important to show that you finished the product. Showing like half of a product, not so good. But it's going to gain you points anyway, but it's not so good. Because being able to show that you've took a project from beginning to end means you went through all the phases and all the possible problems you would face, and that's definitely a big win. The next one is art. Now, art, I would say, is the easiest one to get into, but it's also the most, that's the place where most people go. So it is the easiest thing theoretically, but since there are so many people going towards art, then it gets really hard to actually stand out. So what you could be doing at that point is just iterate, keep practicing nonstop, and post your stuff online. This is the most important thing that people don't do enough. You need to post your work online. You need to put like every single best picture you've made, every single drawing you've made, models you've made, all of that, you need to put that online so people can actually find you and you can actually bring a portfolio with you, basically. The actual degree in art is, just to me, it's worthless because I'm hiring for this project. I want this very specific art style. I'm not going to be looking at the degree. I'm going to be looking at the portfolio. And I'm really sorry if you do have an art degree, but you probably learned a lot different styles. So at that point, if you have an art degree, I would also assume you have a big portfolio with a lot of different styles in it. So that's definitely a win. But the degree itself, not something I would look at if I was to hire people. And finally, design. Design is, to me, would be like a dream job, basically. I haven't done any design in the past, but I would love to. And I think this is the hardest one to get into because you need a knowledge of pretty much everything, because you need to know what you can do and what you can't do. You also need to be able to write some good documents. You need to have clean writing. You need to have clean speaking, being able to communicate with a lot of people, being able to get feedback out of the player, and just making sure the game is always fun. And now this is where your experiences as somebody who did mods for, say, Skyrim, or maps for Far Cry, or maps for StarCraft, this is where it actually shows, because you're taking engine that already exists, you're taking stuff from programmer and artist, you're just putting it together to create a good experience. And if that experience is fun, then put it on your resume. Put it on your resume if it's fun. People are going to love it, and they're going to give you more points. But do not only include that, also include document of how you went about doing this, and try to make a formula out of it. So you've made this map and using your own custom formula, so there has to be like an obstacle here, and then it has to be power up there. All of that needs to be documented, and if you do that, even though the people that might read it might not understand it from the get-go, they will see that you understand it and you followed some kind of pattern to make this fun map happen. So that's going to win you tons of points. So to resume, to go for a programming job, learn an engine, learn how to put a game from start to finish and just go on with it. Or get a degree, it's one of the two. Now for art, just build up your web portfolio and apply to a lot of places. Just keep applying to places and build up your stuff. Just keep iterating, gotta practice, gotta stand out. That one is really, it's easy to get into, but since there's so many people going there, you're gonna have an hard time. You need to stand out, so just find your style and practice a lot. And finally, for design, I would play a lot of games. I would find what makes those games fun. So when I play a game and I'm having this feeling, wow, this game is fun, write it down, look at why it's fun, try to actually replicate that mechanic, try to replicate that in any other like custom game you can be making. But really try to replicate that, try to document it as well. And yeah, so just go from there. Play a lot of games. Now there is something true for all of those fields, programming, art, and design. You can have an easy access to all of them if you put your feet in the door and then you show interest. I'm going to be taking myself as an example. So when I got out of school, I've had knowledge, a little bit of knowledge in pretty much everything. So I was like a small jack of all trades, which obviously is not a winner at all, like I've said. But of course I knew like terms, so they would value me over somebody who didn't have that experience for sure. But still, I had no specific thing. So what I did is I applied for a game tester job, and I got that game tester job. At that point, there was no way for me to get a programming job at Ubisoft. They do not hire people that have a degree, a 1-year degree in all the fields. They hire like actual people that went through bachelors in computer science for programming, say. So I had no chance of getting an actual programming job. So what I did is I've got a game tester job, then I shown interest in the programming side, and eventually I got there in less than 4 months. So 5 years of school versus 1 year of school and then 4 months of actual industry experience. That might sound like cheating, but it's actually a shortcut that was really hard to take, because you got to be like concentrating on that stuff. You got to be like learning nonstop while you actually work. So it was really time consuming at that time. I didn't really have a life, which brings me to the next point. You must forget about life for a while. Okay, so get this. Making games is fun. And a lot of people want to do it for a living now, and it's more accessible every day. So there's like new companies showing up, there's more money being spent on entertainment, and we actually have the chance now, not like before. Like before, like buying games was not like that big of a thing, but nowadays buying game is like part of something we do maybe like even every month, or I don't know. I have like no real analytics on that. But it's something that we now have access to. We can actually become game developers for a living. And that brings in a surge of people. The accessibility we have now, it just brings in a surge of people that wants to make game too. And boy, you're going to have to fight, because those people, they all want to get in the game industry at the same time, and you need to be the one that stands out. Now, how do you stand out? You must put a lot of work in it. You got to put a lot of work, a lot of hours. We're talking about 70, 80 hours of just learning stuff every week, and you gotta just have your breakthrough using that. So it's not always gonna be like 80 hours when you get a fixed job, then you can actually do the 40 hours things, but even there you gotta keep learning nonstop and follow the trends. So yeah, making game is fun, but it's gonna require you a lot of time, and you need to spend a lot of time to actually just keep standing out nonstop, because new people are going to come in every day, and those people, if you're not willing to put as much time as them, they're eventually going to replace you or just take your space. And I hope this message doesn't actually discourage you from being a game dev, but like the initial push you'll have to do is hard. It's going to take you a lot of hours, and you'll need to stand out. To stand out, you need to put a lot more time than the others. Now, the good news is that there is no better time than today to start. Why? Because you have all the resources lined up there. You have YouTube, you have my channel, you have like every other channel that teach you art. You have like a lot of other stuff that teach you design. All the resources are online and they're free. You could be like going to Udemy, you can be going to any other website that sell classes, or you can just go to YouTube and get some free education. And it's worth something. Game design is a field that isn't really, there's no like right way or wrong way to do it. So just showing that you have your own way and you can actually stick up to it. Like I said with the map, the Far Cry map, you had your document and you had like little drawings, you had values in there. While the person reading that might be like, I have no clue what those numbers mean. You do, and that's what's important, because they know that you do and you're able to follow some kind of formula. So it's the same thing when you're actually making your game. You find your way to make games and you just prove that it works. You just bring your project through and finish it. There is so many ways to make games, so if somebody sees that you've made a game taking that alley that he doesn't know about, but you've managed to actually put it through and actually finish your project, then he's going to be like, yeah, what? You managed to actually do something, so while I might not know exactly what you did, it's working, and we love that. We're going to hire that. All right, so that's a lot of information, and I think I'm going to end this with a final situation. Just say that you're ready. So you have your portfolio, you have your example, you have everything is ready. What do you actually do at this point? Where do you actually knock on doors? So first, I would look for QA job, quality assurance, or QC job, quality control. I would look for those things. And you apply to all the places. Even though you have like this place that you know you're not going to go work at, it's too far away, you're still going to apply, so they give you an interview, which is going to help you with your other interview. And then from there, you can just bargain a little bit, but at least you get that experience. You need a portfolio. That's the second thing. So you're going to need a portfolio, value quality over quantity, especially if you are an artist. So say you're making a really nice drawing of a Pokemon or whatever, which I don't recommend doing, but just say you're doing like a drawing of Pikachu. You put there, it's pretty good looking, but then the next day you make a better drawing, replace the old one and put it there. Just keep iterating over your art until it's like super nice, super shiny, and it just catch the eye. Because people, you are going to lose interest quite fast. When you go through a portfolio, if the portfolio is 5 pages long, not going to be looking through 5 pages because I'm a busy person and I got coffee to drink. Okay, so third point is to be persistent. And I know I mentioned that the game industry is actually being flooded right now with a lot of people just applying, but it's still a very small industry. It's not a fast food industry. It's still very small. So people are going to recognize your name from one place to another. We are all connected. The people are actually working to some degree. We're all connected and we're still very small, and you have contact in that studio. You make friends in that studio, and those people usually they split to other studios, and now you can talk to them and they have insight from other places. So really everybody is connected in there. So if you just keep putting your name out there, the more you see it, the more people are going to relate to the name and actually give you a chance. So just be persistent. But like every time you apply, change your thing a little bit, improve your thing a little bit. 4, do not apply as a jack of all trades. Don't say that you can do everything. Just say, I want to be applying for this programming job, and show your programming stuff. Show that you know about the other one. You have you understand what the terms mean. You understand what the words are being used in the industry, but you don't want to work for those. You just have a understanding of it. And of course, do not say that you're able to do everything. That's not going to work. 5th, make games. Just make games right now. What are you waiting for? Just go make games. We have a whole series on that. Just go ahead and make games and mods and maps and all that kind of stuff. Just show that you have an interest in making games, because that's what you're applying for, isn't it? Number 6, do not be an asshole. Like I've mentioned, people talk to each other. So if you're really rude to an HR, that HR has other HR connection, and she must be like, yeah, I mean, don't hire this guy because he's an asshole. That's how it is. We're still very small industry, so just don't be an asshole. That's a general rule of thumb, I guess. Number 7, work on your communication skill. And that is something I had to work on myself a lot because when I was out of school, very shy guy, would not stand in front of camera like this. That would not be an option for me back in the days, and had actually problem communicating with people. So you have to get a little bit social to some extent. You're going to be working in an environment that requires a lot of communication. It's constant communication. So showing that you have some social skill, you're not going to crumble under social pressure, is something required. The game industry is a fun place to work, and that's because everybody is not really easygoing, but everybody's able to communicate and live with each other, like to some extent. So that's also what they look for. I've seen many places that took somebody that was like really cool, really smooth, easy to talk to, over somebody who had like a 5-year degree and that was just had a little bit hard time communicating and would always be like in his corner doing his thing. So that's not so fun to have around you in a work environment where you need to communicate a lot. Versus the other one who's easygoing, easy to talk to, then you're gonna have an easier time transferring your value and training that person over the one that's not so easy to talk to. And number 8 is it's kind of optional because it depends really where you live. I've had the chance of growing up around the Quebec area, so over there we have game jams, we have game convention, we have events like with game dev, just going to bars and places every month, stuff like that. So I would just go there and show up and just start talking to people a bit, just getting those social skills out there. But you get known, you just get your face out there. Like, I'm gonna say it again, it's a small industry, people know each other, so when you go to places like this, you're gonna get recognized more and more and more. But I also understand that if you live, say, in the middle of Iceland, you're not gonna get the chances like this, so just join online communities, be active online, and just get known through that medium instead. But if you have the actual chance, if you're living around Quebec, if you're living around North Carolina, California, or any other major game center, then you might want to actually go there in person. That's going to give you a lot of chances. But then again, you can also do that through the online avenue. Alright, so that's pretty much all I wanted to share with you guys. This is not a programming video, but if you enjoyed it, let me know in the comment. I'd like to do more of those since they're easy to do for me. I can just like sit here and talk. What a great time, especially in this room, because it's a green room and it has like this soundproof thing, so it's pretty cool. Sorry about getting close to the mic, but still, if you enjoy those, let me know. Let me know. I'd like to do more. I'd like to actually talk about more topic. I think I have some insight that I can give you if you just ask me. I'm an open book. I'll just make a video about it. Plus, they're easier to make, and right here, since I'm the Philippine right now, having a hard time actually making tutorial videos since I don't have my setup, and this keyboard is really loud. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Just keep on sending resume, keep on being persistent, make games, just make games. And you're actually going to have your breakthrough. Once you have your breakthrough, use that as a lever, go up, and then find your dream job. That sounds like such an easy plan, but it requires a lot of work. And I'm sure you guys can do it. If you've been able to watch through this, you have an interest, so I assume that you guys can actually keep putting some work in there and actually making it. So, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys soon. Cheers.